Roblox game out there that no one has ever beaten. In fact, no one has ever gotten halfway to completing it. And the game in question is Ultra Hard Badge List Reborn. And of the 143 badges featured in this game, only 56 of them have been completed by one person. And so today I created an iceberg featuring every game on this list, starting from easiest to hardest. And spoiler alert, they are all impossible. So kick back and relax and enjoy today's video, and let's go through 7 layers of hell. Starting off with Layer 0. Now, in the game itself, these games are labeled with 0 stars, meaning that these are the easiest of the easiest. But don't let that fool you because, well, the requirements for some of these are pretty insane. Starting with our first entry, 6.0 Hero. This badge is for a game called Super Bomb Survival, and the way you obtain it is, well, beating 6.0 difficulty 100 times over. And after looking at what 6.0 difficulty is, I can basically say it's like surviving with all disasters and natural disaster survival. Obviously, the clear rate for this is very low, and well, if you're going to do this, it's going to take you a long time. Awesome Maniac is a badge for a game called Stars Align Engine Demo, and the win condition for this is to clear Mount Awesome in under 2 minutes. Now, of course, Mount Awesome isn't something that you can easily just scale in 2 minutes, but after looking at a few speedruns of this, it is entirely possible that anybody can do this. Excellence of the Horse. Excellence of the Horse is from the game Crazy Horse Game, which is a horse platformer. It kind of gives me Super Mario 64 and Pizza Tower vibes, but all you need to know is that you're a horse doing parkour. And the win condition for this badge is to obtain the Belt of Hearts in World 4. And of course, the obby itself is very painful. Judging by the video of it, you would assume that this looks pretty easy, but according to XXTDS fan XX, he thinks that this is one of the hardest badges in all of UHBL. That's because this requires generational ball knowledge on how to make a horse jump in this game. Our next entry is strongest of them all in the game Prank Your Mom. And the win condition for this is to find and beat Bob Ob. Now, Bob Ob is apparently a secret final boss for this entire game. And well, here is what a sliver of this boss fight looks like. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say not a lot of people are beating that. Glutton for Punishment. Now, this badge is from the game Pressure, which everybody should know, and it requires you to rage Infestation before door 25 and then make your way to the end of the ridge. And if you don't know what Infestation is, it's the little monster in the game that basically makes you drag your cursor to look at it so it can damage you. Now, imagine doing this for an entire run past room 25. Yes, it looks very annoying. And from personal experience, I had a hard time doing the hunt Easter egg for this game, so yeah, no thank you. Round 50. Round 50 is a badge for the game Project Lazarus, which is essentially like Call of Duty Zombies inside of Roblox. As the badge states, you have to get to round 50. This one is pretty self-explanatory, and I feel like I could definitely do this. Guardian Nightmare. This is our final badge for Layer 0, and this one is pretty self-explanatory because you have to vanquish the Nightmare Guardian Sentry inside the game Realm of 9 portals. From seeing footage of this boss fight, this really does look like Dark Souls but inside Roblox, so if you're a big Dark Souls player, maybe this one is just for you, but if you're a normal human being, well, maybe steer clear. Which brings us to Layer 1, and Layer 1 is, well, the biggest of them all, because most of these games on this list fall into the 1-star difficulty category. And I should mention that the jump between stars in each category are pretty big, and this is where things start to get a little crazy. That's because our first entry in the list is to finish the Hardcore Railgun Obby, which is in the game the True Railgun Obby, and the win condition for this obviously is to beat this obby in hardcore mode, which means you cannot mess up whatsoever or you have to restart. Another important thing to mention is that the railgun in this game is the thing you're going to be parkouring on because you have to create your little ledges, which makes this infinitely more harder. Commander Zero on the game Paradigm Shift Tower Defense. The win condition for this badge is to triumph against Axon Industries and Insane Solo. Now, what makes this so hard is, well, a few things. 1, the towers have an insane amount of health. 2, the towers can kill your towers. And 3, what the hell is going on my screen? Combined with all these 3 factors, hours, well, this one looks pretty impossible. Formidable Mental Fortitude. This one is a little bit more straightforward because it's on the game Simple Hiking, Hiking of the Soul, and you have to complete Simple Hiking within 420 seconds of joining. This game can be best described as Roblox's version of Getting Over It, and while 420 seconds might sound like a lot, it is a really big time constraint because the video I watched, the guy literally got it at 420 seconds. And that's thanks to this very long bridge at the end, so even if you are fast enough, well, you're not really fast enough. A-P, perfect run completed. This one's really self-explanatory. You have to go into the game A-P and have a perfect run. This is once again another platformer game, and judging by a lot of users' comments and experiences doing this is apparently one of the easier ones on this list. But unfortunately, it still requires basic mastering of this game. According to the user Not Lavender, it took them 2 hours and 44 minutes to complete, so really, it shouldn't be that bad. Extremed Ruin Tunnels. This entry is on a game called The Train Tunnels, and while you have to escape while all train difficulty modifiers are on. Honestly, beating this one is kind of ridiculous because all you hear is just trains, trains, and more trains. I would say play on mute, but I feel like you probably want to hear if a train's coming towards you. Winter Apricity. This badge is on a game called Climbing Game, and well, the badge itself is pretty self-explanatory because you have to beat the Winter Apricity climbing map. Now, this map is very long and, well, also very hard. Yeah, make the jokes in the comments. Thankfully, there is no time constraint. However, you can't fail whatsoever or you're just screwed. This one is also not for the faint of heart, and looking at this, well, I don't think I could do this one. I'm gonna be so real with you. Dreams of Dystopia. This badge is located in Project Somnia. In order to get it, you have to escape the Kaizo district of Lucid City. Just like all the other ones, there are no checkpoints in any of the obbies, and well, the obbies are pretty damn hard because there is a time constraint because the floor is rising. But I'm not gonna lie, watching someone beat this gave me the same vibes as that one dude who beat that really hard Geometry Dash level. If you can beat this one, well, it's absolute cinema. Reach the Sky. This badge is found in the game Less Than Home, and it's almost exactly like the Railgun Hardcore obby, except this time you're just in a different game. All of the same concepts apply to the fact that you basically have to make your own parkour jumps, but honestly, if you did Railgun obby, you could probably do this one too for another free badge. The Lark Over Ocean's Door. This is the first badge of many that will require you to 100% certain games. When we get to these games, I'm just really going to tell you what the game is and move on because, well, I'm not going to explain out 100% in the entire game. The game in question for this badge is called the Gallery of Ordered Instances, and honestly, after looking at it, I really don't know what to tell you about this game. You did this to yourself. This badge is from a game called MGD Where, and the description for this one's kind of funny because it says score 999 on turtle mode in parentheses takes 5 hours. And it wasn't joking when it said it takes 5 hours. On top of this, you are only allowed to have 3 mistakes within those 5 hours. And I'm not gonna lie, watching gameplay for this is like watching paint dry. I would stay far away from this one. Still possible. This badge is located in the game Industrialist. And Industrialist can be explained by the fact that it looks like Factorio. And the win condition for this badge is to beat Impossible Square difficulty by selling 1 purple gold ingot before reaching 200% pollution. Now, I have no idea what that means, but the run for this took around 4 hours for this player. And while yes, the run only took 4 hours, it's probably also important to know that if this game is anything like Factorio, I guarantee it's extremely complicated. Hard Endless 2000. This badge is in the game A Really Freaking Big House. And the title of the badge says it all. You have to make it to room 2000 in the Endless game mode, which yes, it does sound crazy, but I'm pretty sure you can have a checkpoint at room 1000. So you only have to do 1000 in a row without dying. Yeah. Teamwork. Now, this might be one of the funniest ones in the entry because you have to beat a map in the Roblox game Super Golf with having 0 strokes in a public server, meaning that people have to push you around so you can get a win with 0 strokes. And on top of that, it also has to be in a public server, so no doing it in a VIP with your friends. There's also a pretty big time constraint with this one too, because if someone gets into the hole, there's a timer that starts, meaning that you have to go as fast as humanly possible. But if the circumstances are right, this could potentially be the easiest one on the entire list. The Replay. This badge takes place on Isle and it requires you to get the orbit ending before day 3. Now, I have no idea what that means, but I know the Isle is a pretty hard game. And if it's like anything I remember, you probably want to get a friend to help you for this one. Veteran Speedster. This one is pretty simple. It just requires you to get all time trials gold on Roblox cards. parts. Not really much explaining to do here, just go fast. Dirty tricks. This badge is located in the game called FNF Multiverse. And if you don't know what FNF stands for, it's Friday Night Funkin', which means that this is a rhythm game. And well, if rhythm games are your thing, well, this should be really easy. But if you're like me, well, I would never complete this in a million years. I mean, literally just look at this. My brain simply cannot keep up with that. Bad researching. This badge is located in the Blood Obby. And while the Blood Obby is notorious for being a rage game, and I have personally played through almost the entirety of the game, and I can say I do not want to do this one because it transforms the game into Baldi's Basics, and you have to fail every math equation and still escape and fight a boss. After you kill the boss, obviously you get the badge, but once again, I would never, ever want to do this. Knocking on Heaven's Gate. This is from the game Sun, Moon, and Star. To these I bid adieu. And the win requirement for this is to obtain every single badge in the game. And unfortunately, the game is just as long as the title because it took the user Zoomal 49 hours to complete. All-Stars. This badge is in the game The Universal Gateway, and once again, you have to obtain every badge in the game. The runtime for this is probably going to take you around 27 hours to do, but gun to my head, I cannot tell you a single damn thing about this game. Completionist, Azure Mines. This one requires you to get all upgrades inside Azure Mines, which is cool and all, but I'm not trying to flex or anything, but I do have the Kappa ore. I don't know if it means that much in the big 2025. For all I know, Kappa could be one of the most common ores, but the last time I played Azure Mines, it was pretty good. But yeah, this one's also pretty cut and dry. Purple Coin Grandmaster. This is from the game Purple Coin Challenge B-Side, which is a platformer which requires you to collect purple coins. It's very important though that you cannot die whatsoever when you're running this. So if you die once, you have to restart from the beginning again. Legacy Completionist Kaizo Epic Minigames. Of course, this is another one of those 100% completionist type things. The win condition for this is to beat all minigames inside this game. The runtime should take you around 15 hours, and well, good luck. First Person Completionist. This is from the game Speed Blocks, and once again, it requires you to beat every map in first person. Now, if it's anything like first person parkour in Roblox, this probably just sucks, but it's okay, because I'm not the one who's getting this one. Achievements Keter, SCP Anomaly Breach. This one's also pretty simple because it requires you to get all achievements as a Class D on Keter difficulty. This game is quite literally just like the SCP Containment Breach, except that it's in Roblox. But just because it's in Roblox doesn't make it any less terrifying. My Doom completed. This is from the game Virus Alert, and this game can be best described as Five Nights at Freddy's if it was made for brain-rotted children, because there is so much going on your screen all at once. I cannot keep up with it, and I feel very overstimulated. Seriously, it's like watching those kids play Fortnite and Doom Scroll on their phones at the same time. Like, it's too much. But I know my editor would love this game. Process of Rebirth. Now, of course, when I look this one up on YouTube, the only thing I would get is either religious people talking about reincarnation or golf tutorial videos. And for whatever odd reason, I cannot find this anywhere. The only video I can find of Tropical Golf doesn't even feature the badge, but instead, the owner of the game beating the living hell out of a golf ball. That poor thing. Deathless Win. This is from the game Zipline Obby, and once again, this one is also pretty simple. Just do the entire obby without dying. Apparently, it's really hard, but I do have a pro tip that I'm not supposed to be sharing because it's highly confidential information, so I'm gonna whisper it. Don't die. Completionist Recovery. Once again, this is one of those 100% do the entire game kind of badge, and it probably takes a very long time to do so. Of course, when I look up this on YouTube, all I get are kids complaining the fact that their account got terminated. Balance Pro. This is from the Roblox game Balance, and you have to complete every single level in the game. And of course, you are a ball on very small platforms. The closest experience I have to this is, well, beating Run 3, which I know, I'm just so amazing. I know. Thank you. You guys don't have to clap anymore. And for our last entry on the list, Pearl Towers. The win condition for this one is quite literally just to beat Pearl Towers. And I'm not gonna lie, it does not look easy because, well, it's just steep steps, but way harder. No jumping, no checkpoints, just you and your ladder. Now we have officially made it to Layer 2, and Layer 2 has a little bit of a difficulty spike. Like, you wouldn't even notice it kind of difficulty spike. That's because our first entry is a deathless win on the world's hardest game. And yes, it is the world's hardest game that you're thinking of that you played on Cool Math Games in 2012. I remember going on the internet and seeing a video of somebody doing this flawlessly, and I thought they were cheating. But hey, this could be your first 2-star badge. Aced it all. This badge takes place inside the game The Crusher, and the win condition for this is to beat every map in a pro server. Now, when researching this one, I noticed that you could most likely cheese this as long as you are in a pro server by yourself. On top of that, with enough Robux, you could buy every map that you need and be done with this one pretty quickly. Relentless. This badge takes place on the game Night Watch, and you have to beat the game on the hardest difficulty in hardcore mode solo. And if that sounds hard, that's because it is. This definitely seems like one of those games that you just have to play for hours and hours on end to understand every movement of every enemy in the game. On top of that, it's also a horror game. But if all things are right, a flawless run will roughly take you 16 minutes. Challenger Street. Now, this badge takes place on the game Challenger Street. I know, great naming with the badge, but it requires you to beat Challenger Street in time. And honestly, the best way to describe this badge is like doing max difficulty on run 3, because not only are you switching which sides of blocks you're on, you have to do it in a certain amount of time at a pretty fast speed. But out of all the ones so far, this one seems pretty doable. Beat Black Knife XFC, and this takes place on the game Delta Rhythm, and it requires you to beat Black Knife X. And if you're wondering what FC stands for, it means full combo, which means you have to combo this entire thing. And if you're like me and have absolutely no sense of rhythm, well, this is probably not going to be good for you. This is it. This badge takes place in a game called 1000 Rooms, and the way you get this badge is by beating Room 1000. However, I should note that only 16 people have ever done this. And on top of that, the run time for this is also extremely long, taking around 2 hours for your entire journey. Overall, I would not recommend this one for anybody. How? This badge is located in the game UMG Phobia, which is a melee fighting game that is, well, very violent. The win condition for this badge is to beat the game on the 0.1 second reaction time mode. And no, you don't have to actually hit something at 0.1 seconds. I assume it just means that the enemies are going to react to you basically instantaneously. If you're good at melee fighting games or have beat Pontiff and Dark Souls 3, I would say this badge is pretty doable. Outran the Psychosis. This badge takes place in the game Outrun the Nightmare, and it is by no means an easy badge because the win condition for this is to beat this game in purple mode, which requires you to get buttons around the map. On top of that, you are on a time constraint because there is lava rising. According to one of the players that actually played this and beat it, in their words, this was the worst obby they have ever experienced by far. So maybe sit this one out. Death welcomes you home. This badge takes place in the game Minigame Practice Place. And honestly, I'm not too sure what this game is about because the entire gameplay for this badge is, well, clicking a circle on your screen. It honestly doesn't even look that hard, and I feel like even I could do this one. Fearsome 5. Perfectionist Mode Complete. This badge takes place in the game Defend the Core 2. The win condition for this badge is to beat the Fearsome 5 event chapter on the Perfectionist difficulty, which consists of 5 different bosses that you have to beat without dying or taking damage. The runtime for this will take you probably about an hour, and well, probably hundreds of runs of memorizing certain boss patterns. Even the game tells you that you probably won't be able to do this legit when you first attempt it. Avenge the Fallen. This badge takes place on the game Caustic Confines, and it requires you to reach floor 100 and slay the aggression without dying. And this obviously isn't an easy task because, of course, while watching this, I watched this person almost die 10 times. On top of that, this person is doing it with a big group of people, which took them around 40 hours for them to complete this. And I would like to say that we are only on Layer 2. God knows what's coming next. Noob Defender, New Game Plus 3. This badge takes place on the game Boss Fighting Stages, and the win condition for this is to complete Nostalgia Revive 2, Noob Defender, New Game Plus 3. And if you're not an RPG player and you have no idea what New Game Plus means, it essentially means that you're redoing your game with your current save file, meaning that when you restart, you won't lose any of your items or progress. But that also means that enemies scale to insanely high numbers, and if you're not prepared, you will die pretty easily. And in this case, the user Spirit M, well, wasn't so prepared, but thankfully already had way more than enough friends to carry them through. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the only video that exists of somebody actually beating this, so it goes to show how hard it actually is. Perfect Hybrid Scout. This badge takes place in the game Arena Tower Defense, and this is once again one of those 100% completion rewards where you have to beat the entire game to get it. There's not really much to elaborate on because this is just a tower defense game mode, so let's just go to our next entry, which is score 250,000 in the game 1010. Now, if you're a fan of more puzzle Tetris style games, well, this could be the badge for you because I'm pretty sure the rule set is that you just have to make lines across the board. Of course, since you're using randomized shapes, though, you have to do this without filling up your entire board with random blocks and holes. To me, this looks mind-numbingly boring, and I guess the real challenge is not falling asleep before you get 250,000 score. The mainland. This badge takes place on Taxi Simulator, and you have to complete Cool Katie's third challenge. And surely, how hard can Taxi Simulator be? Well, apparently, really hard, because you're not just driving in this game. You are manually controlling the wheel, manually controlling the gas pedal, and the brakes. And according to the players that have tried doing this, the brakes absolutely suck. Luminance. Crazy Plus. This badge takes place on everybody's favorite game, Flood Escape 2. And I was thinking to myself, this can't be that bad, right? It's Flood Escape. And then I click on the video and watch this guy absolutely destroy this obby. And to make it even worse, I watched it in 2 times speed, and now my brain is just broken. But low-key, I would like to attempt this. All I would need, though, is the 7 Dragon Balls and at least 1 year in the time chamber. Death to Fire. This badge takes place on Obby Royale, and you have to win the escalator mode with no deaths, but it requires 2 people. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the 2 people is just so the game mode can happen. I don't actually think both players need to 100% do this correctly, but if you do want to get this, you need to not die whatsoever, which is borderline impossible. Overachiever Doge. This place takes in Find the Doge Heads 2, and it requires you to obtain every single Doge in the game, excluding special and optional Doges. This is once again one of those 100% complete ones, so this doesn't really require much explaining. True Squad Dementia. This badge takes place on Kittyland Horror, and you have to beat the Dementia difficulty with the True modifier on with 6 people alive. Now, the real hardest part about this badge is getting 6 people together. Gun to my head, if you told me to get 6 people together for $1 million to play a horror game, just shoot me. Just shoot me. It's not gonna happen. Oh, and of course, this is also a horror game, so you would never find me playing this whatsoever. Casual Muncher. Now, this might be the funniest one so far. This is from the game I Hate You, and you have to beat the entire game in extra content, which might not sound bad up until you realize you have to find 30 boxes that instead of saying crunchy, say munchy. And to the sad soul that did this, Rick Tang, they said it took them 6 hours to find all 30 boxes. Oh yeah, and there's people after you. Honestly, I might have to do this one just for the love of the game. Without a Voice. This badge is on the game Neon Knights, and you have to beat the game on voiceless mode, which means that you have to beat this not only on standard mode, you have to do it on whisper mode, and then voiceless mode. And on top of that, this is also a very time-consuming badge. The runtime for this user took around 20 hours. 100 Streak Hardcore. This badge takes place in the game Survive the Disasters 2, and the win condition obviously is to get a 100 streak in the hardcore mode. Honestly, this seems like a very time-consuming and insane challenge, and judging by one of the completionists' 37-hour runtime, this is kind of insane. Omega Loop. This takes place on Grass Cutting Incremental, and this is an incremental game, so I'm not going to sit here and explain it because incremental games are basically just arbitrary numbers going up. And funnily enough, the completion for this is probably longer than what it took this game to be made. If you like cutting grass mindlessly for hundreds of hours on end, well then be my guest. 6-star The Glaciers 1. This badge is in the game No Jumping Obby Zone, and it requires you to complete levels 131 to 140 in the Glaciers in hardcore mode. The extreme difficulty comes from the fact that you are on ice parkour and, well, you cannot jump. There are a lot of instant kill bricks everywhere, and you have to be very exact with how you are moving. But honestly, I would take this over Grass Cutting Incremental every single day of the week. Survive. This comes from the game 6 Hours of Silence. And, well, the win condition for this is to sit for 6 hours. That's literally it. If you have 6 hours of patience and you want to get a badge, by all means get this one. Go outside. This takes place in Dummies vs. Noobs, and it requires you to beat the game in Masochist mode solo. Now, I can't even beat the game on the easiest difficulty solo. Dummies vs. Noob is a very hard game, and this is nothing short of pure masochism. So if this is your thing, well, so go for it. For me, I will just sit in 6 hours of silence. 100. This badge takes place in the game Operation Coyote, and the win condition is an endless survival. Survive until round 100, starting from round 1 without bleeding out. Now, this game is just Call of Duty Zombies in Roblox like Project Lazarus, but instead of getting to 50, you're getting to 100. This is definitely considered one of the harder badges in the entire list, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of grinding, and of course, a lot of Call of Duty Zombies experience. Mr. T Lexify, I'm waiting for the video. Lap 5. This badge takes place in the difficulty upgrade tree Regrown, and you have to complete Lap 5. Now, before I show the game, I just want to put a little quick epilepsy warning. If you are photosensitive to flashing colors, please skip to this point in the video. As far as I'm concerned, this game is just pure running with a lot of flashing lights and confusing textures. I wouldn't be surprised if this put someone in the hospital, but oh my god, what the hell is wrong with this game? For our final entry in Layer 2, we have the 2,000-yard stare. This takes place in the game Whizbang, and Whizbang is a World War I trench warfare PvE game, and you and a group of like 20 other people have to make it all the way to day 100. Now, I will put a little asterisk because the badge will be rewarded to you as long as you join before day 50. The runtime for this will probably take you around 7 to 8 hours. However, this seems like one of the more doable ones. We are now officially in Layer 3, which means we are in the dead center of this iceberg, and things are about to get a lot more difficult. Hollow Intimidation. This takes place on the game Illusions, and the win condition for this badge is defeat Nyx without getting hit. Now, if you've ever played Sekiro or Dark Souls, or just any Souls game in general, you might have a lot of fun with this one because, well, this fight is just absolutely cinematic. Like, I could never do this in a million years, but man, could I watch this over and over again. There's just something very special about seeing players perfectly fight a boss and go blow for blow with them. So if you beat this, let me know in the comments because I would love to watch you fight it. Ocean Man. This takes place on the game Defend This Statue and requires you to get a mastery of 100 on the fishing rod. Now, of course, you're not actually defending the statue with this. You're quite literally just fishing for hours and hours on end. But considering the fact that there was a badge that required you to wait for 6 hours, you know what? At least this one's stimulating. Level 50. This badge takes place in the game Nullscape, and it requires you to pass 50 levels on normal mode in one game. Now, the only footage I could find is this, what looks to be 240p footage with the worst bitrate of all time. Seriously, what you're looking at was filmed 3 months ago. Have we not figured out how bitrate works? And on top of that, only 74 people have ever done this before. And to make things even crazier, this is only on normal mode. The hard mode version of this game has 0 people ever winning it. Boss Rush. This badge takes place on the game Something Boss Fights, and well, you have to clear the boss rush, which if you don't know what a boss rush is, it just means you have to fight every single boss. Just like the game Illusions, this is more of a Dark Souls style game, and once again, the boss fights are pretty damn cool. 1000%. This takes place on the game's Just Shapes and Beats, and unfortunately, there is no footage of somebody actually getting this badge. However, it does require you to beat every single boss in the game on every difficulty, and well, that apparently is pretty hard because despite having over 23.9 million visits, only 25 people have ever done this. L. This comes from the game Deity Arena, and it requires you to survive to wave 50. Now, it says in the badge that 10 people plus are recommended for this. Just like the badge earlier, the hardest part is probably going to be finding 10 people. And once again, this seems like a Dark Souls style game, so if you can find 10 people that are interested in this, this would be a really fun badge to get. SOS 5000. This badge takes place in the game Far From Land, and it requires you to complete max mode SOS while having max distance. This game appears to be exactly like FNAF, except you are on a ship, and the distance really just means how long the mission is. Of course, you also have to do this with 20 of every monster in the game. So yeah, this one is just basically impossible if you're not a FNAF guy. Ultimate Champion. This badge takes place in the game Super Checkpoint, and the win condition for this is to beat the Ultimate Champion Marathon as blocks. And on top of that, there's a reason why they call it a marathon, because you have to go through the entire game and not die once. Completion of this takes an hour and 30 minutes, but considering the fact that you have to be perfect, it's gonna take you a lot longer than that. Master of Difficulties. This takes place on the game Trias.os, and for anybody wondering what this game is, it really just is Blood Escape, but a little bit harder. The win condition for this is to complete one map of every difficulty from easiest to hardest without dying once. Thankfully, there is a lot of leeway with this one, but some of these maps are pretty damn game ridiculous, and this is by no means an easy task. Not enough, and no, not like the Kendrick Lamar Mustard song, let's be real, guys. And this takes place on Muppet Tale. The win condition for this badge is to defeat Dust Elmo Phase 2 with 15 lives left. And I'm gonna be so real, if I was playing this, Elmo would be in my nightmares because this looks absolutely impossible. Seriously, what the hell am I looking at, man? Certified Beast. This is probably one of Roblox's most iconic hard badges, just because it's literally every floor in the Tower of Hell. Now, there are 330 stages you have to climb without dying whatsoever, and I have attempted this multiple times myself, and well, I could not do it. The general runtime for this will probably take you around 2 hours to scale the entire thing if you do it flawlessly on your first try, but unless you have insane patience or you just really hate yourself, I would not go for this one. ... This badge takes place in the game Undertale Judgment Day, and it requires you to defeat Dust Sands. Now, I have no idea what Dust means, but what I do know is this boss fight's pretty crazy. However, it's completely possible because this also has 2,700 victors, making this one of the more obtainable ones in the 3-star category. Phoenix Rising. This badge takes place on the game Entry Point, and it requires you to beat Iron Man mode on Legend difficulty. Now, as everybody does know, Entry Point is just basically Payday 2 inside Roblox. And on top of that, if you want to beat this, you probably want to do this with your best group, because doing this solo might just seem like a death sentence. Once again, though, with the right team of people, this one seems actually pretty doable. How did we get here? This badge takes place in the game In 1 Minute You Will Explode, and this is personally one of my favorite games on this list because it's made by my goat Fedoric. I have personally completed all badges in this game except for this one, because this badge requires you to complete every ending in a row without getting any duplicates, and of course, without messing up. Just to even get one of these badges in this game, it took me 4 hours worth of attempts, so I cannot imagine doing all of them in succession all at the same time. This game is fun, don't get me wrong, but it's not that fun. True Perfectionist. This badge takes place on the game Psycho Cats, and it requires you to reach 110% completion. Now, this does seem pretty cut and dry, but after watching a run of somebody doing this person collected 1,200 different collectibles in the game within a 27-minute span. Big shout out to Green who somehow did this. Absolute insanity. 100%. This takes place on the Battle Bricks front line, and it requires you to obtain every unit and badge in the game. This is once again one of those 100% completion ones. There's not really much to elaborate about. Just do everything in the game. Meet the Owner Bloodless One. This badge is on Obby Definitive Edition, and it requires you to obtain 75 coupons on Blood Trial and buy the Golden Sack Boy. Now, I couldn't find footage of somebody actually doing this, but I do have footage of somebody attempting this. However, there are only 26 completions of this ever, and since this game is pretty niche, that attempt is the best footage we have. Insane Mode Boss Rush. Just like the game earlier, this is another boss rush, except this takes place in a bullet hell style game called Syllabite. And I personally love the bullet hell genre, but sometimes it gets a little out of hand, and this is definitely one of those examples. Somehow, though, 93 people have beaten this, which I guess that means I just have to get better at bullet hell. Eternal Destruction. This takes place on a game called Skill-Based Boss Fights, and just like the other boss fights game, this is kind of more of like a Souls-like game. Thankfully, this time, you don't have to beat all the bosses, you just have to beat the one boss. And honestly, after seeing all the other boss fights, this one looks kind of doable. But of course, this is Layer 3, and nothing is just kind of doable. Final Boss. This is in a game called Strange Place, and it requires you to defeat Melon. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I can't take this game seriously, because why the hell is the final boss a watermelon? This is some kind of like, you don't want to see me infuriated all game, you know what I mean? Like, what's next? Is a giant barbecue bacon burger gonna come from the sky and kill my family? At this point, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that in Layer 6. Hallucination. This badge requires you to beat the game, the perils, and extra content. Essentially, just a 100% completion of this game. And low-key, this game is oddly terrifying because I understand it's called Friendly Smile, but really, do you gotta have a friendly smile every single corner you turn? Come on now. Lone Void Specialist. This badge requires you to beat every map solo. And judging by the gameplay loop, this looks like it's very time-consuming because these bosses have a lot of health and, well, you don't really do that much damage. Bind All the Flowers. This badge is in the game Resurrections, and it requires you to obtain every other badge available in the Roots of Corruption. This is also the third Call of Duty Zombies style game in our list, and also the least popular one. However, the badge does does have 35 victors, so this is very much a doable achievement. Lore Master. This badge takes place on the game Defend the Statue, Eras of Conflict. And this one is another funnier way of saying 100% the entire game, because the win condition for this is, well, to obtain everything in the index. Cannon Curator. This takes place on the game Visteria, and it just requires you to purchase the cannon pet from the Coliseum shop. Now, considering that this is just an item you have to buy in the game, I'm assuming that this is a very long grind. And since this is also like an MMORPG, I'm almost certain it's gonna at least take you 100 hours to get. A Goliath. This is in the game called Pool, and it requires you to obtain 320 blades to kill a Goliath. Now, when researching this game, I could not find a damn thing about it. In fact, the only way I could find it was going through the badge list and then clicking on the game. And I'm gonna be honest with you, when I joined the game, there were a lot more questions than answers because the entire place is just one giant pool, and I assume it's some kind of badge hunting game because it doesn't tell you to do anything. It's just a giant pool. Like, seriously, what is this game? Cosmonite's Fish. This is a badge for catalog gear place, and it requires you to beat every boss required and beat Cosmonite solo. Now, I'm not entirely sure if you have to beat every boss before that solo or if it's just this one specifically. Now, unlike all the other boss fight games, I wouldn't really consider this more of a Souls-like. I would say probably a little bit more of a bullet hell. I gotta say though, the final boss fight for Cosmonite actually looks insane. Like, I don't know what's going on with these niche Roblox games making insane boss fights, but I did not know about any of these. Madman. This is in a game called Dev Splunking, and it requires you to reach floor 100 by any means possible. And judging by the gameplay of this game, it kind of looks like a weird roguelike Among Us, where you have to go around doing tasks to complete each floor. And oddly enough, I could see myself playing this. And before I start this next one, I swear to God, I did not plan that the next entry was going to be No Visor Among Us. Complete coincidence. This is in the game Find the Among Us's, and it requires you to get the No Visor Among Us 2. And of course, the reason why it's marked so low on this list is because, well, there's a boss fight. Yeah, Among Us final boss, dude. What are we doing? And for our final entry, we have Don't Fight It. Don't Fight It belongs to the game DLB Custom Night, and it's basically Five Nights at Freddy's, but you can customize how many things you're going against. And of course, this is the hardest of the hardest difficulty in this game, hence why it's ranked at the bottom of Layer 3. The gameplay for this is absolutely insane because you are literally just flipping back and forth, making sure nothing is getting to you. And believe me, there is a lot of things getting to you. Layer 4 is going to be an interesting one because we're getting to the point where not a lot of people are completing these badges, and well, there's also just not that much footage of these badges happening. Thankfully, there's just a little bit less games that we have to go through here, but there's still quite a few things we need to touch base on. So without further ado, it's time to go a little bit deeper. 620. This badge is on shifts at big queues. And the win condition for this is to complete the max mode graduation day. And just like our previous entry in Layer 3, this is like a FNAF style game, except you are a coder trying to code. And according to the first victor of this badge, it took them 3 months to do this. Once again, that's psychopath behavior, but I digress. 90% completionist. This is in the game Isaac's Minesweeper, and the win condition for this is to obtain 90% of special flags. And I'm gonna be honest with you, this game is Minesweeper on steroids. Like, I have a hard time going through normal Minesweeper because my brain cannot compute the numbers together. This is just a whole nother level of absolute madness. The Arcade Champion. This takes place on Cornerstone Arcade, and it requires you to win a jackpot on every machine in the arcade that isn't hardcore. And I guess this takes some serious luck because the only video I saw of this game is a kid hitting a jackpot and then absolutely freaking out so much that his audio broke. I remember the high of going to a Chuck E. Cheese and then spinning the wheel and then hitting something above 10 tickets. If this was out when I was like 10 years old, I think all of my YouTube money right now would be going to some form of gambling website. So, next game! Zombie Scout. This takes place on the game Reminiscence Zombies, and it requires you to obtain all badges that contribute to the Zombie Scouts. Now, of course, I couldn't find any footage of anybody actually doing this, so instead we're using background gameplay of just the game itself. And of course, course, only 23 people in the world have ever gotten this badge. And since this is also just a funnier way of saying 100% the game, I probably wouldn't recommend it. Night 30 Impossible. This is on the game Final Stand 2, and it requires you to survive up to wave 30 on impossible difficulty. Now, honestly, this one doesn't seem too bad. However, the runtime is going to take you around 4 hours to complete this badge. On top of that, you also need to find 3 competent friends that you're willing to do this with. And judging by how hectic everything is in this video, those 3 friends that you pick, well, you better really like them, because you guys will be sitting there for a long time. Drownio Champion. This takes place on Super Kaizo Drownio Road, and this is basically, well, Super Mario inside Roblox. How this game is up, I have no clue. But what I do know is that only 12 people have ever done this badge in particular, and there's no footage of anybody attempting it. I do remember playing this when it was out like a year ago, and the controls were really clunky and just not that good. So if it's anything still like that, I can see why only 12 people have completed this. Cursed Blood Moon. This is on Tornado Alley Ultimate, and the win condition is to survive Tartarus with only a cursed idol. Now, looking at the gameplay, I really don't know what the hell is going on, because all it is just flashing colors with some blood rain coming down from the sky. And there's 48 minutes of footage of this. So to the person that beat this, big ups to you for being the first victor on this, but dude, what the hell am I looking at? Platinum Survivor. This is on the game Survive the Disasters Reborn, and it requires you to complete every badge on the list. Essentially, it's another one of those badges where it's just a funnier way of saying 100% the entire game. Not really much more to elaborate on here. Death's Verdict. This is on the game Blackout Revival, and it requires you to complete any map on Death Sentence difficulty in the Final Eclipse game mode. And this is once again another zombies game. The runtime for this badge will take you around an hour and 20 minutes, but honestly, this game is absolutely sick, and I'm definitely checking this one out in my free time. Legend of Multi-Cube. This takes place in Find the Cubes, and hey, big shout out to the Find the Games. We need more representation on this list, but this is also just another achievement that's telling you to 100% the entire game. Incredible. This is on the game True Lap 3, and it requires you to complete True Lap 3 on normal mode. And once again, what is up with these damn smiley faces, dude? This is the 3rd game on this list that has a room just full of these things. Like, what am I watching, and how do they keep getting harder? Our next entry is Completionist, and of course, it's on the game Random 606 sublevels, and of course, the damn faces are back to haunt me again. 2 in a row! Now, if the next game has anything to do with faces, well, let's just say my editor will never see the light of day ever again. Drum roll, please, for the next entry. Legendary from Football Fusion 2, baby. Oh, we are so back. Now, you guys don't know this, but I play quite a bit of Football Fusion in my free time. And honestly, this achievement is borderline impossible to get, because you have to achieve a 99 overall while surpassing all stat analysis goals. And in this game, it's kind of hard to do that, because most of the time, you're not allowed to go to level 99. You quite literally have to be Josh Allen in the clutch and not mess anything up the entire time you're going to level 99. And of course, it takes hundreds of games to do this, which these games take forever. So yeah, no thanks. 20,000 score. This is for the game Pandy's Aim Trainer, and you have to score a 20,000 or higher in any scenario. And there's really only 2 ways to get this badge. Either have generational talent with aim training, or quite literally be the famous CS2 major winner Donk. That's my goat right there. Pardoned. This badge takes place in the game FNAAWC, and you have to complete the max mode on Death Sentence. And of course, just like the other FNAF games on this list, you are going to experience the most stressful 4 minutes of your entire life completing this badge. And since it's near impossible, good luck. Hell is Other People. This takes place on the game No Exit, and it's a 10-player obby, and you have to escape the facility with all 10 players. Now, there is no gameplay of anybody actually doing this. However, there are 43 victors, meaning that 4 groups actually have done this before, which honestly is kind of insane, but God knows how hard this actually is if it's a 4-star badge. Azura Award. This badge is on the Zombies Revenge, and you have to beat British difficulty. Now, since once again, there is no footage of this, I'm assuming British difficulty just means that you have a knife. And if that's true, that's actually hilarious. On top of that, only 99 saying people have actually completed this badge, and considering how far down it is on this list, that number seems oddly high. Be True Completionist. This badge takes place on the game Bee Saga, and it requires you to obtain every badge in the game. And out of all the badges so far, this one is the rarest with only 8 people completing it. But despite only 8 people completing it, we actually do have footage, and well, to complete this requires 7 hours of gameplay. Citadel of Void Rush. This takes place on Caleb's soul-crushing domain, and it is our first major tower in this video. I'm not gonna count the Tower of Hell because that's just a bunch of easy obbies combined, but a Citadel is nothing to brush off. On top of that, the win condition is to beat the Citadel of Void Rush in all jumps mode 5 times in a row. Now this is psychopath behavior, and unfortunately, there are a lot of instances of people actually doing this. I expect nothing less from the ETOH community, honestly. Goku's Wrath No Hit. This takes place on the game Radiance Recreation Extreme Mode. And I just want to say, if anything involves fighting Goku with no hit, sorry, just kill me. It's over. I'm dead. Not even the 7 Dragon Balls could save me here. There is no chance in hell I would ever be able to do this. And well, I don't think anybody else could either because I cannot find a single video of somebody actually doing this. You have 120,000 legacy badges. Now, this one doesn't really have any difficulty to it. It's really just tedious because if you really wanted to, you could go into every legacy badge game and then just walk the line of 1,000 badges. But to be honest with you, I don't really like those games because I feel like it's not natural and it's low-key cheating to inflate your gaming numbers. 100% game. This is on 5 nights at the gangs. However, this badge is currently bugged and is impossible to get. Just like in the other games, you have to beat it on the max mode difficulty, but this time it's called max mode Pizza Man. There's not really much more to elaborate on because this is like the 5th one of this, so we're just gonna go to the next one. Revolving Roadway. Funnily enough, this is on the game Revolving Roadway, and the badge win condition is to triumph the Revolving Roadway. And honestly, there's not really much to say because this is just like run 3 but with extra steps, as I said before. So just like that, we are at the end of Layer 4, which means we are coming up on Layer 5. And Layer 5 is special because this is where things really start getting impossible. The badges I'm about to list, almost no one has, because the requirements to get these said badges are just absolutely ridiculous. Starting with Overachiever of Lanes. And this is our second entry with Taxi Simulator, except this time it's way harder, because this challenge requires you to beat a map like Revolving Roadway in a small time frame, and on top of that, there are fluctuating green and red lights, meaning that you can only go so far per light. I don't know what person would willingly do this to themselves. You have my respect. You honestly do. You deserve a medal. Wave 35 solo. This is on the game Wave Sword Bots Experience, and you have to reach Wave 35 on solo in endless mode without using any abilities. Now, of course, this game itself is already extremely hard, but doing it with no abilities is even more insane. And of course, only 11 people have beaten this, so yes, it's borderline impossible. Sub-level 100. This takes place in, oh my god, it's another smiling game! The game takes place on the Smiling Complex, and you have to beat Cluster 10B. And looking at gameplay for this, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at still. Why are there faces everywhere? I don't get it! Seriously, how are there multiple games of this? What is this? Now, this next entry is a little bit weird, so I'm just gonna call it CN. And this badge takes place in Night at Rodri's. And just like a lot of games in this list, this is a FNAF style game, except this is probably the hardest version of it. Like, look at this gameplay and tell me what the hell's going on, because I have no clue. All I know is that I would never do this in a million years. And to Merlai, you're an absolute madman, and I respect you. Psychotic Sociopath. This takes place in the game The Omniverse, and it requires you to defeat Revamp Dust Swap Fell Papyrus Phase 2. Now, if that sounded like a mouthful, it's because it is. And I'm not gonna lie, this looks borderline impossible. In fact, this looks like one of those Super Mario Maker levels where Mario just goes somehow perfectly through the entire course with a million things going at him. Like, how is this fun at this point? I'm not getting it. Mountaintop Grandmaster. Now, this is what I've been waiting to talk about, because this badge is in Bee Swarm Simulator, and it takes a little bit under a year. 337 days to be exact, which is just absolute insanity. And to Mr. Green with 19 subscribers, I don't know how you do it, but congratulations, man. You earned it. 100 badgers completed. Now, this badge, of course, is going to be located in in the Badger Hub, but there's not really much to the badge itself because it's not a game. However, I will say there is only one Roblox user that has ever completed this badge, and like I said, like, what is the point, man? What is the point? This is just pure misery at this point. Speaking of which, our next badge is Eternal Descent, and the win condition is to reach floor 100 on hard mode. Now, there's also not really much to explain about this one because one, I cannot find anybody actually doing this, and two, this game looks very similar to like the Among Us roguelike I said earlier, and only 11 people have ever beaten this, so yeah, it makes sense that there's not really much on YouTube about it. Foolish. This is from the game Randomly Generated Droids, and you have to beat the game on Ascension 15 with Fool. Now, this game is a roguelike, and everything is basically random. Every run is different, so there's not really a set tutorial you can follow for this. However, the Fool is a character where you're not allowed to pick up items, you're not allowed to change your stats, you're not allowed to use your abilities, you're not allowed to have weapons outside the standard melee, you have no teammates, you can't jump, and you have 1 HP. It's pretty ridiculous. But somehow 193 people have done this, so hey, kudos to you guys. Acme. This is in the game Pain v4, and you have to reach room 1001. On top of that, this is also the first game that requires you to have video proof. And since it does, we have gameplay of this, which is 3 hours long of just pure misery. And if it looks familiar to you, that's because this is basically the hell mode version of a really freaking big house. But this run is just absolutely ridiculous, and I don't see anybody else doing it, honestly. Misery Metal. This is on the Roblox game Sir Oofington's Present The House, which is a horror game, except this badge only has 2 victors, and I'm assuming one of them is probably the owner and the other one's a developer. There is no footage anywhere of anybody beating this, so honestly, I have no idea what this really entails, but if it was achievable, someone would have gotten it by now, right? Beat the Gauntlet. This badge takes place on the game RUPMR The Gauntlet. Now, this is a Roblox obstacle course, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think it's possible. Like, you can see my gameplay, and you can just see how much is in front of me, and you are not allowed to make a single mess up whatsoever. Of course, only 4 people have actually been in this, and I'm assuming one of them is the owner. So yeah, good luck. Completed 61 through 70. This badge takes place on the game The Great Centurio Revive, and the win condition is for you to get to the end of floor 70 with video proof. Now, of course, this is borderline impossible because only one person has ever been in it, and we're getting to the point where I can't even find these games on Roblox because these are just so obscure and, well, just empty. Literally no one is beating these games, and it's even crazier because this badge isn't even the limit of the obby. There's more after this, but since no one has completed it, it's not on the badge list. Midnight Illusion 3. This takes place on Rosu, also known as Roblox Osu, and Osu players are a different breed because 90% of the time when I see an insane complex map, I just don't know what's going on, but I am enjoying the music. And of course, the win condition is to obtain rank S in all of these songs without using no fail and halftime. And of course, unlike the other game where they had no victors, this one has 73 victors because Osu players are just mentally ill. Finally, freedom is something I wish I could say because I have been sitting here recording this for the past like 8 hours. But this one is pretty straightforward because it just requires you to complete the listed songs in one play session without missing. Doesn't sound too bad until you realize that you have to do it all in one play session and not miss once. Like, this is just psycho behavior. This is not right. Imagine if we had this much effort to the cure of cancer. I guarantee if you made Find the Cure of Cancer a Roblox badge, they would find it within a year. Ridiculous. Out of the park, Kaizo Robot 64. As we all know, Kaizo Robot 64 is just a Super Mario 64 remake. But unlike Super Mario 64, the final level for this requires an hour and 30-minute guide. And that's just to do it. That's not even for the final home run, flawless run. The farther down the list we go, the less and less faith I have for humanity. And somehow, some way, 14 people did this. This is just pure insanity at this point. Devoid. Completed hardcore mode. Now, this is one of Roblox's longest and hardest obbies of all time, if not the pinnacle of Roblox obbies. It's so hard, only 2 people have actually completed it. And yeah, we still haven't even started Layer 6 yet. Speaking of which... We are finally on layer 6, which is basically just the impossible difficulty. No one's beating these anytime in our lifetime. We have a higher chance seeing robots taking over than anybody actually completing these badges. And our first badge is Survive XK Outbreak on the game Fumo Horrors. And the win condition for this is to survive a Blood Moon XK Outbreak without dying. And of course, only 5 people have somehow beaten this. And I just want to say, there have been more presidents in the United States of America than there have been people that have beaten this. And the difference is, one is the president of the United States of America, the other one's probably unemployed. However, I do have a question on why this one is in layer 6 instead of layer 5. Because only 2 people have beaten Devoid, and 5 people have done this. The world is backwards, honestly. I don't know. Ascended. This is on the game Stairway to Heaven, and the win condition is to successfully beat Stairway to Heaven in hardcore mode. And of course, Stairway to Heaven is another parkour tower that is borderline impossible. Every part of this obby has been carefully designed to be borderline impossible, requiring the finest motor movements, exact jumps, and amazing timing over and over and over again. And what you're watching right now is the only person to ever beat this, period. No one else has even come close to doing this. So let's give 5 big booms to Boom Sass OK. Boom! 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 And for our final entry on this list, Tower of Wigglecore. And yes, this is the tower of all towers. There is not a single Roblox obby that is harder than this. And you want to know what's crazy? This has 1 victor. And you know who that victor is? It is none other than Boom Sass OK. He's the only person to ever do this on both towers. He basically just owns the entire ETOH community at this point, dude. Make him supreme leader of the world. But that's it. We did it. We're done. This was the entire Iceberg. I hope you guys had a blast watching this entire thing through because this took way too long to make. I would really appreciate it if you guys consider subscribing or becoming a YouTube member to help financially support me doing these bigger videos. Thank you everyone for everything, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!